Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of February 16th to the 22nd of 2025. Before I get into the charts here, if you are looking for a reading with me through my Etsy shop, if you're looking to support me on Ko-Fi, or if you're looking to join the Discord server, all those links are in the description below, or in my bio if you're on TikTok. Of course, the most simplest and easiest way to help me is, of course, to hit that like button, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube, hit that follow button if you're on TikTok, as it helps the algorithm to push this video to more people. Of course, before I get into the chart here, I tend to get stuff through intuitively, like I said, when I do these videos. Okay, so what that means is if I talk about any specific future event or anything that might happen, that is nothing but a potential, and it is subject to change, right? Because we all have free will. My own guidance has been that astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things, meaning that the position, like in terms of where the planets are, etc., is the reflection of the natural cycles of the universe, which is of course all vibrational. And in terms of where the astrology is at now, is conducive to a certain vibration, and of course that which wants to come manifest, if it is a vibrational match, it is able to become manifest in certain kinds of energies and cycles, right? So that of course can shift and change, can be thwarted by some people, or all that, whatever, it can change, right? So what I'm saying is nothing is specifically set in stone. However, the actual vibe of the energy is still going to be there. So what will become manifest, even if it's not a certain specific thing, will still fit into the energy or the vibration that is still occurring at that time. All right. So with that all being said, let me pull up the chart for this week. So of course, we're going to start here on Sunday, the 16th. The only kind of major thing we have here, I was going to say not really so major, but just kind of one thing peaking today, is this sun in semi-sextile to Neptune. Now, if you watched last week's video, we kind of talked about previously there was Mercury there with that semi-sextile, as it was making minor aspects to the nodes as well. Now we have the sun doing the same thing. Of course, with the South Node in Virgo. Of course, what rules Virgo but Mercury? Okay, and Mercury is now in Pisces and not in Aquarius, like previously. So when Mercury was aspecting the nodes and Neptune with the semi-sextile, Mercury was in Aquarius. Now Mercury's in Pisces, but Mercury is still ruling over the South Node, etc. But now the Sun is doing this, so it's a slightly different vibe than when Mercury was here. All right, so, but with this Sun sextile to Neptune, it's this aspect of dissolution and change. Really, there's an opportunity here with these two energies regarding highlighting these aspects of change that we're going through, but at the same time, this dissolving, this heading into this unknown space. And of course, as I was burping there, that's maybe something to pay attention to, as usually when I burp or something like that happens, it's kind of the guide saying pay attention to what kind of is being said, because this is very important. So with that, surrounding this change and this dissolution and this, of course, Neptune to conjunct the North Node, moving into that new direction as well, because we still have the Sun here in quincunx to the South Node and semi-sextile to the North Node here in Pisces. All right, so if you kind of caught the tail end of last week's video, it's kind of or I don't think that was in the tail end, actually. It's been there somewhere regarding Mercury. It's a similar vibe. However, there's what we've deemed as practical is no longer going to be seeming practical any longer as we move forward in a new unknown direction in terms of that nodal axis. So with that semi-sextile to Neptune there, which is conjunct the North Node, it's kind of related to these aspects of change and the dissolution of things and moving into the unknown. It becomes very malleable and changeable with that kind of vibe, with that energy and those two signs helping each other out. Of course, as I did mention in last week's video, you can check out my video on the astrology of Gen Z. If you go back through my profile on TikTok or on YouTube and just find that video, and it highlights a lot of what this Pisces Aquarian energy kind of means together in that sense as well. In terms specifically for that generation, but also in general in a sense of what this energy it could mean when being used together in that way too. All right. Okay, so that's it for Sunday there, the 16th. Let's move on to Monday, the 17th here. Okay. So, Monday the 17th here, we're going to have, interestingly, Mercury in semi-square to Chiron. Okay, one thing that's coming through, I won't go through all the things that are happening here. One thing that's coming through here, this Mercury semi-square to Chiron. If you watched last week's video, I said Mercury in Pisces can mean different things, as Pisces is kind of what's hidden, the fog, that deception type of energy. One thing with Mercury here is it can be communication relating to that deception, whether for or against. So what I mean by for is it could be a manipulation, it could be communicating a deception so that you don't realize the truth, or the positive vibration of this is communicating that deception or what's actually been hidden. This could also be like intuitive communication, things coming out from, what's been hidden, what from another realm, or what, that kind of vibe. Right? So with this semi-square to Chiron, in terms of our identity, our self, how we've been wounded in terms of our, one word I was getting was sovereignty. Like I said, sovereignty, freedom, but this is dealing with self-identity in terms of sovereignty, which of course relates to aspects of freedom. With that semi-square, there could be an aspect of awareness or communication that comes through here. You can also see Mercury is actually building in square to Jupiter, which is in one of Mercury's signs of Gemini here, expanding this awareness and aspect of communication. So if what I'm feeling comes to pass in terms of this being used in a very positive way, there could be an aspect of communication or awareness that comes through that either triggers wounds of self, sovereignty, identity, or heals them, or it could be both, triggering and bringing it up in order to heal it and move forward in some way. But this is relating to maybe how we've been hurt in some way previously. This can be collectively and also individually. So, or both, honestly, that could come through depending on, where you're at in life, what you've been, where you've been, what you've done, how you've been hurt. That's going to be different for everyone. But there's that, like I said, there's that expansion of that awareness. Of course, Jupiter is still conjunct Uranus's North Node, surrounding aspects of changes, big changes that have needed to occur, right, with Uranus in Taurus. So, yeah, that's kind of the message that was coming through there with that, in terms of maybe there's something coming out surrounding this, or there's at least an awareness of maybe the hidden deceptions or what's been hidden surrounding where we've been wounded in terms of our self, sovereignty, etc., coming through there in a lot of ways. All right. Also on this day, we're going to have the Sun in square to Juno in Scorpio. Juno dealing with partnerships, but that's also like that contractual partnership. So whether that's marriages, any kind of committed partnership, including business contracts, government contracts, that kind of stuff, any type of committed partnership in some way. But of course, with Juno and square to the Sun here, the Sun is now illuminating whatever the transformation of these partnerships are. Of course, with the Sun in Aquarius, this is illuminating aspects of change, destabilization, shaking things up, revolution within those contracts in terms of their transformation and maybe what's been hidden within them as well. Right? So there's a lot of that vibe. And of course, with this square doesn't have to be a bad thing. Square is just pushing for that resolution between these two energies. So we've got a strong aspect of change and transformation here, and illumination of these changes within these contracts that are occurring here as well. All right. So again, it relates to last week's video in which Mercury was in square to Juno. Interestingly, this time with the Sun in square, it's at 29 degrees, which is an anaretic degree or a critical degree in astrology, meaning this could feel very intense. It could feel like this needs to be done right fucking now, and it could feel like let's go, go, go. And especially with this square here, there's a really strong push for whatever this shakeup or this change is within whatever these partnerships or contracts to occur in this way as well. All right, that looks to kind of be it for Monday, I guess. Let's move on to Tuesday here, the 18th. So Tuesday the 18th here, we're going to have, where is she? Venus, the beautiful Venus in semi-square to Uranus. Okay, so Venus is in Aries. Of course, Uranus is in Taurus, Venus' sign. So I feel like this is still dealing with aspects of changes. What I'm getting now is this is dealing with our own identity within relationships or within other people. What I feel and what I'm getting is like other people, not specifically maybe a relationship or whether that's romantic or whatever, but it's just like other people. Okay, as Venus tends to, rule relationships, but in general, that could just be other people. It could be acquaintances, it could be whatever. But what the vibe that I'm getting is other people as it relates to maybe that Libran energy. And surrounding with this semi-square aspects of change, shaking things up, what I was getting was value and worth in terms of our own identity within other people and what needs to change within that. And like I said, with Uranus and Taurus, this could be big shifts and changes, right? Taurus can be very stubborn. And again, it's one of Venus's signs too. So this is really, there's a lot of this Venus energy here. But with Venus in Aries, we're dealing like with this our own identity, our own sovereignty in that sense as well as it relates to other people. Okay? Respecting not only our own sovereignty, but respecting that within other people as well. Right? If we're allowed to be an individual, unique and free, so does everybody else. So if we can do it, everybody else can do it too. It's that kind of a vibe. Okay, but with this semi-square, it's learning to see maybe a value in our own worth, etc., as an individual, instead of other people putting it on to say, oh, you need to do this for me, or oh, you need to whatever. It's like, no, within our relationships, within the people around us, we are our own sovereign self, but we need to understand and reflect the value of that uniqueness and individuality in another person as well as ourselves. Okay, so that semi-square feels like it's kind of dealing a lot with that coming through here. Also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in semi-sextile to Venus. Okay, so maybe there's an opportunity here being put forth in terms of an aspect of communication, but I feel like these energies might be fighting against each other. So with a semi-sextile, it can be opportunistic, as in these two signs that are next to each other can be working to help each other, or they can be not so much as maybe a bit detrimental. So what I kind of feel with this is maybe there's an argumentative vibe or energy that comes up with this, maybe in terms of what's being revealed with this Mercury in Pisces, in terms of our identity, etc. But that's somehow related to maybe this Venus semi-square to Uranus, in that we need to learn to see the value in everyone, in each other, in terms of our own individuality and sovereignty, instead of just arguing it about ourselves or being extremely self-centered in that way, right? This is dealing a lot with like an old paradigm or old world mentality of narcissism, selfishness, that kind of stuff, and moving it away into recognizing that we all need to have the ability to be our own individual, unique selves, and to be able to express that and understand that in a lot of ways here. All right. So that's kind of playing a role. So it's almost like there could be communication, like I said, surrounding that. The vibe that it feels is kind of like I said, there might be a fight involved here, which is why I'm feeling like this may not be necessarily a positive. If there were to be like the positive aspect of this, it would be positive communication surrounding what I just said in terms of our uniqueness, individuality within us and other people, right? Or our relationships. But due to the state of the world, I don't think we're there. Sadly, I really don't. That's why I think what I was getting was that this is likely just going to lead to a heated argument or something, because we are Venus in Aries. This could be a fight between people too. So, and with that aspect to Mercury, likely verbal, an aspect of communication. So let's not be, it's just what I'm getting, all right? Don't shoot the messenger. I can see here Venus is also building into sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. So there's this expansion of communication too. So not only is Venus in semi-sextile to Mercury, but also in sextile to Jupiter in Mercury's sign of Gemini. Jupiter always expands what it touches. There seems to be this strong expansion, a lot of awareness, communication, etc., that has kind of been happening not just in the last week, but now into this week. And that could also be because Jupiter is now direct too, right? So there's more of an expansion. We're not necessarily going over old ground and seeing where we've needed to expand and change. We're now in the fact of where we've seen that, and we're beginning to see the paths of where we really need to expand that even more in terms of new directions, or expanding, releasing stuff, speaking about stuff, even old stuff, but now we're expanding it more, beginning to move forward into a new space, a new direction as well, in a lot of those ways too. And of course, that's in this case dealing a lot with other people. All right, so let's move on then to Wednesday the 19th. This week is going by really fast. What the fuck is going on? Wednesday the 19th, there's nothing major peaking on this day. This is going by really quickly. So I don't know if maybe this is a vibe that's beginning to pick up now as Jupiter's now direct in Gemini. Maybe Gemini's very quick, speeding things up. Jupiter expands what it touches. We've got Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is out of shadow now, so it's 2 degrees 37 minutes. We're moving, right? So, oh my God. One thing I completely missed on Tuesday, Sun enters Pisces. How the fuck could I miss that? I'm looking at aspects on here. I'm not looking at like Sun transition. Okay, so Sun enters Pisces on Tuesday. I don't know how the fuck I missed that. Sorry guys. It happens at 4:07 a.m. Central. So yeah, maybe this, whatever this Venus stuff is something that we don't see coming, because as the Sun is entering into Pisces, Pisces is that fog, it's the unknown. You're not maybe really going to see it till you get there. And so we may not see that coming right away, right? So we're kind of in that phase of maybe a lot of what happens now, we may not see it coming. We're moving into the unknown. Like I said, with North Node here, especially still in conjunction to Neptune, South Node Virgo, what we've seen, what we understand as practical isn't necessarily practical any longer. Now with the Sun in Pisces, and I don't mean this as like a bad thing for any Pisces. Pisces is a wonderful sign. All signs are wonderful signs. Okay, they just relate to different aspects. There's a different vibe to each one, right? And that's amazing. We need to understand that just because something is different doesn't make it better or less. It just makes it different and makes it unique. And that's just as valid as anything else that's unique, right? So with Sun in Pisces now, we're dealing with Pisces vibes. Okay, we're dealing with strong compassion. We're dealing with going with the flow. We're dealing with what's hidden, deceptions. We're dealing with spirituality. We're dealing with a lot of this very flowing, it's very strong feminine energy as well with Pisces, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. Let me kind of feel into Sun in Pisces. I don't know. To me, it feels like Pisces. It just feels like Pisces to me. How can I articulate that? I think it's everything I already really just said. It just feels like water sign, emotional, that aspect of compassion, flowing, yeah. Mutable, malleable, something that's coming through. Mutable, malleable. But there's an aspect there. So there is an aspect of change to Pisces. Not necessarily the same as Aquarius, that's destabilizing, revolution, shaking things up. But Pisces is, I almost wanted to say like a flowing change, but it's malleable. It's like how a river erodes land, right? It's that the river flowing through, but it's over time it erodes. It's that it creates that malleableness. It changes the surface. It changes it as it goes along. It's that mutable energy of Pisces. It's still an aspect of change as things become maybe more malleable now so we've had all of this Aquarian energy of like this, shaking things up, this revolutionization, focusing on change, this kind of all over the place type stuff. And now it's like this flowing, but things are still changing, but it's almost like it's more malleable now. It's beginning to move. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. Pisces to me also kind of feels like a lot of the unknown. It's like we may not fully know it until we're in it. There's the vibe of that with Aquarius too. Is Aquarius, there's stuff that can just happen out of nowhere. It's almost unpredictable. But with Pisces, it's not that it's unpredictable. It's that it's hidden. It's there. And if you know how to tap into it, you can tap into it. But from a physical reality perspective, a lot of times it's hidden, and you have to tap in to that other part of you that doesn't necessarily really exist here. It's that more metaphysical part, that non-physical part. It's your intuition, it's that spirituality, it's that stuff that allows you to kind of begin to know and to feel into all the potentials of where you're headed or the path that you're on, so that you can have that realization of maybe where you're going, right? But it's not something that's going to come through the mind. So if you're stuck in maybe that more masculine, communicative, mental type energy, when we're in Pisces, it can be very difficult, because when you're stuck in that space, so pay attention to that. When you're stuck in that space, you're not really focusing on your intuition. You're not allowing, that creative side. You're not allowing your right mind to work as much as your left, I guess, yeah. As your right mind controls the left side of your body, which is the feminine side. The left side of the mind controls the right side of your body, which is your masculine side. So with that feminine flowing energy, you need to be in tune. You need to be in that intuitive space to understand what's hidden and to trust and flow and follow your own heart, versus the mind, which is very small and limited in terms of its perception, because it only understands the physical reality. It doesn't understand anything that can exist outside of it, or outside of what you or it can see, hear, or understand within your local environment, right? And that's not anything negative towards Gemini or towards masculine energy. That's just the vibe of what that part of it specifically is, okay? And in terms of masculine and feminine energy, the feminine aspect is the intuitive part that can see that. The masculine aspect is the one that's able to understand and communicate that from this level, in that way, right? Or take action onto things, physically express it in a certain way. Whereas the feminine is more of that passive, getting it and understanding it in that sense, and then the masculine can use that, right? They're both, one is not better than the other. They both work together in unison with each other to create that balance, right? And what I'm talking about is the energies, divine masculine and divine feminine energies. I'm not talking about it in some heteronormative old world bullshit type of relationship. Of course, that can still exist. Like if you're a straight person and that's the type of relationship you have, then yeah, that can exist in that way. 100% it can. I'm not saying that it can't. But what I'm saying is that's not the case for everyone, and that's likely not the case for everyone. Because we're all unique and experience it in our own way. Okay, but we all have both divine masculine and divine feminine energy within all of us, no matter what our sexual orientation or gender identity is. That is all still valid, of course. But we have that energy within us, and when they are in balance is when we're working at our best. When they're unified and in flow and working at our best. All right, so that's kind of Sun coming into Pisces there. That's the vibe I feel from that. as time goes on and the sun's making other aspects, etc. Obviously, I'll talk about that when they show up. Okay, so let's move on to Wednesday the 19th. And again, nothing happening. Wednesday the 19th, we do actually have Juno will move into Sagittarius by the end of the day, 9:35 p.m. So with that, with Juno, again, we're dealing with contracts, contractual partnerships, business contracts, marriage contracts, committed partnerships in that way, etc. In Scorpio, we were dealing with the transformation of those, change, deep focus, transformation, seeing them for what they are. Now in Sagittarius, we're expanding on that. Right, so maybe there was a transformation of existing contracts and partnerships, whether it's business, government, marriage, relationships, whatever, whether it's socio-political, economic contracts, or whether it's relating to you in your personal life regarding business contracts or whatever that was occurring. Went from that transformational point to now in Sagittarius as expansion. So now maybe there's new contracts. Now maybe there's new commitments and partnerships. Now there's maybe lots of new stuff in terms of expanding them or taking an existing partnership that maybe was transformed and now expanding it in a new complete way and in a new awareness in that sense as well. Now we're heading into that Sagittarian energy. And of course, the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, is in Gemini. So there could be a very strong awareness of this and a communication of this that does come forward with this as well. But I feel like communication and that awareness is playing a huge key role, likely going forward with whatever those contracts and stuff are as Juno progresses through Sagittarius. All right, so let's move on to Thursday the 20th here. So with Thursday the 20th, we are going to have this Sun in Pisces now in sesqui-square to Mars in Cancer. So in last week's video, I talked about this. Okay, I'm just seeing, because we're having like a quarter moon on this day, I'm going to still talk about this first. Or do I talk about the quarter moon first? Let's talk about okay, quarter moon. I'm feeling, sorry, sometimes when I get this, it's like, okay, I'm feeling into what the hell do I talk about for? All right. Okay. Quarter moon. So we're going to have a last moon quarter before the new moon in Pisces. So here we're going to have the Sun in Pisces, moon in Sagittarius. So moon is conjunct Juno, but of course it's going to happen. It looks like around 2 degrees. Sorry, I don't have the chart set for the exact time of this quarter square, but I mean, I can if you guys would like. Lunation cycle, third quarter. There we go. There, now it's set to the exact degree and minute for those of you that might be sticklers to, well, you need to make sure that it's at the right thing so we can see it exactly from what it is. Don't worry, I got you, okay? I got you, it's here, we're here now, all right? We're here. Okay. Now, I was just thinking of a funny thing in my head that I probably shouldn't say right now. So. Anyways, Sun in Pisces in square to Moon in Sagittarius. Expansion was one of the things I was really strongly getting with this last quarter moon. So I feel like with a lot that was going on surrounding aspects of change or whatever, now we're in a phase of expansion. Again, that can relate to this Pisces energy too, and what I talked about previously in terms of that malleable aspect of change, because we're dealing a lot with Jupiterian energy here. So we have to remember that Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, right? So, and it's obviously ruling Sagittarius. So with this square, we're dealing a lot with this expansion. Okay, so there's no boundaries to Pisces. No boundaries to Pisces at all. All right, and with the Sagittarian energy, with that Jupiter stuff, it's like that expansion, multiple views, multiple directions. So with this square, it's a lot happening surrounding aspects of expansion. So initially kind of what I was feeling there was through all these aspects of change and this Aquarius energy and all of that, it's like now we're in a stage of okay, we've shaken things up, we shook things up, we've seen, okay, we got to change, all this change. It's like now it's time to expand and grow based upon whatever that change was, or whatever foundations or little bits of inklings were put forth with that aspect of change. Although you do have to remember, we still have Pluto in Aquarius, so with that, we're still dealing with a lot of transformation and big shifts and changes, major progress that is occurring throughout this 20-year span that Pluto will be in Aquarius. So this is kind of the start, but I feel like because we've had a lot of this Aquarian energy, if you've seen what's happening in the world, you understand that there's a lot of, I want to say, revolution or stuff going on that's really surrounding aspects of change and people getting riled up over things and all that stuff going on, where it's change. We're destabilizing the old and trying to bring in something new. All right, that's what that Aquarian energy really is, and through that aspect of change, and we really need something new in a lot of ways. Right, so, and now there's this aspect in this area of expansion. We're pushing for this expansion now that is very strongly coming through here. All right, that's the key. Basically, the key word that I was getting for that was expansion. So thank you. All right, now I can kind of move on to talk about the things that are happening here. There's actually quite a few things that are hitting an aspect today. Also, the sun will be in a sesqui-square to Mars. Hold on, I just want to... Okay. Sun will be peaking in its sesqui-square to Mars in Cancer. I talked about in last week's video rather angrily and passionately about this Mars retrograde being that masculine energy, having a look at itself, taking a look in the mirror. One thing that was just coming through was that song by Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. You can have a look at that song to see kind of the meaning of what it is, the man in the mirror that he needs to change, that kind of thing. That's maybe kind of the vibe that's coming through with this. But like I said, with Mercury there was almost maybe that idea of awareness surrounding, well, what I got was there was a softness coming through. And there tends to be an attack on a lot of men or those who represent masculine for being quote unquote soft, right? There's nothing wrong with being soft if you're a man or in that masculine space, right? Not all men have to be this stoic hard ass or whatever okay, there's whatever old template of masculinity is basically trying to be thrown away with this Mars retrograde. All right. But that doesn't mean that you can't be who you are. Okay, whether that is soft or whether that's not. Okay, you don't. I'm not telling every man out there to be fucking soft. No. What I am telling you is to recognize your emotions, to listen to your own heart, to fight and stand up for what's right, have confidence in being yourself, whatever that is, and not being a coward and just fitting into what society tells you to be in terms of being a man. Because if all you're doing is trying to fit in, you are a fucking coward. 100%. All you're doing is giving into fear and you're being nothing but a fucking coward. And I'm sorry, but that's not being a man. Because if you're a soft man and you're trying to act tough because that's what society is telling you to be, I'm sorry, but you are giving into fear. And you need to be your true self. Okay, which I think is recognizing the softness of the masculinity that can exist. Right? And that's not a bad thing. And of course, there are times where you need that aspect of masculinity as well. But in the previous video, what I was talking about, especially with this Pisces energy, was that old school idea of the man to instead of dealing with his problems, drinking them and smoking them away, instead of actually dealing with it and understanding their emotions coming from the heart and giving into that softness, that vulnerability in order to properly actually heal that and move forward. And again, that was what you can watch last week's video to see what I said on that. But now we're having the sun here in Pisces in sesqui-square to this Mars energy. And so there is that idea of compassion. There is that, I almost wanted to say feminine energy, feminine support coming through to maybe help the masculine through whatever it needs to heal surrounding that part of themselves, right? in a lot of ways. With the sesqui-square as well, excuse me, so pay attention to that. With that sesqui-square as well, there's a lot, it means it's something that can no longer be swept under the rug. So there's a strong illumination here because we're dealing with the sun and this push for almost what I'm feeling is like compassion towards the masculine, but that the masculine needs towards other people as well as themselves, including other masculine. And that's not just necessarily biological men. There's, biological women that represent more masculine than they do feminine. There's biological men that represent or reflect more feminine than they do masculine. Okay? Like me, I tend to represent a lot of feminine energy, but I also there's a masculine part there as well. We all have both. 100% we all have both. But however your mannerisms are, or your gender identity, or how you express is going to be different than that, right? We all have divine masculine, divine feminine energy within all of us, regardless of what our gender identity is, sexual orientation, etc. All that stuff is still valid, like I said. But we have that both masculine and feminine energy within ourselves, but also how we express that is how we express that based on our gender identity, etc. It's not something that's black and white. It's not something that's straightforward. Biological gender may be. Yeah, if you got a dick between your legs, you're a dude. If you got the other one, you're like, sorry, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying that, yeah, that's biological sex or gender. That's very basic and straightforward. But gender identity is completely different. You don't have to express your biological gender, right? And that's only based on who you are. Some people do express their they're a dude and they express as masculine, or they're a woman, they express as feminine. That's fine. I'm not saying that that's wrong or that you should change that or whatever. I'm not forcing change on anyone. The only thing that I'm telling you right now is to be uniquely you, whatever that is, right? And I think that's also kind of maybe a part of that this masculine needs to heal too. But I feel like I said, that's feminine support towards this masculine energy in terms of that compassion. Because a lot of times in healing, what we need is love. What we need is compassion. What we need is that emotional support, especially since the masculine has been forced to suppress that in our society for an extremely long time. And it's about healing that aspect of themselves. Because a man that's centered within, if you look at the masculine, or want to consider, say, a man, or the masculine, I'll just call it that, the masculine that's centered within their own heart and expressing from that, is going to fight for what's right and do a lot better than someone that's just not facing their own trauma and covering it up and not healing it or dealing with things in an appropriate way, right? And I've said previously before too, we don't really have a lot of positive male role models in our society anymore, right? Or even if we ever really had. They've all stuck with the old paradigm of fitting into whatever that mold was, when that honestly never really worked, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be like a strong man and fight and do whatever that is, if that's you, if that's actually you, okay? But what I'm trying to say is not everybody is that, okay? Not everybody is that kind of person. Not everybody is going to express in that way. Right? We have to understand that we all have emotions. We have to learn to express from the heart, right? It takes strength to face what you need to face. It takes strength to face your own emotions in a lot of ways. It takes strength and courage to be vulnerable with other people in a lot of ways too. So don't think that because you're crying or because you're expressing your emotions that that's not being a man. In fact, it very much is. It very much is. Because it takes courage and strength to be vulnerable and open yourself up to that sense in a lot of way to another person. And that can deal a lot with like sexual vulnerability as well. To be able to open yourself up fully in that way to somebody else, to experience that experience on all levels intimately with another person. That's, a lot of people have trouble with that. A lot of people have trouble with that. Because they're not able to be fully vulnerable. And that leads to a lot of hurt and pain and ignoring how the other person feels and treating other people like crap because you're not able to be vulnerable even with your own self, let alone with somebody else on that, even not just an emotional level, but on that level or other levels as well. Right? So there's an aspect of that vulnerability that exists and is at play too, especially with these water signs, and specifically emotional vulnerability that comes through with that too. All right, so also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in sesqui-square to Black Moon Lilith. So again, I feel like this is now bringing up that level of compassion surrounding where we've been outcast in terms of other people in our relationships. And with Mercury in Pisces, this could be revealing what's been hidden in a lot of ways too, and the deception. People may try to increase the deception, but it's also revealing the deception as well in a lot of ways too that might be coming out. And of course, remember the sesqui-square is like that super square. It's that pushing for resolution. You just no longer can be swept under the rug. Surrounding where we've been outcast, maybe that awareness of compassion that needs to come through. Remember, Jupiter is still in Gemini, that expansion of awareness of communication. And right here, it's actually on this day too, Mercury is going to square Jupiter. While in that sesqui-square to Black Moon Lilith, yikes. This could very much be that expansion of awareness of communication of where maybe we have been outcast in a lot of ways in terms of other people, relationships, injustices is something that was coming through as well. And that expansion of communication in those areas of maybe what's coming out in terms of that stuff too, and what the deception has been. We may not be fully prepared or ready for what's coming in a lot of ways, but we may not even see it coming. A lot of people might not even see what's coming in terms of this Pisces season, like I said, because they're not in tune with that aspect of themselves, right? So being in tune with that part of you, that intuitive part of you, that feminine aspect, regardless of your physical gender. Like I said, we all have both masculine and feminine energy, and we're able to tap into them equally. Right? And when they're in balance and working together in harmony is when we're at our best. But we have to be able to tap into both energies and not suppress either of them. All right? Okay, so I think I've maybe kind of said enough about that. Definitely an expansion of communication, of awareness of maybe what has been hidden surrounding these. And this could feel like an ouchie, yikes kind of a moment. But it's relating to maybe aspects of change and change that needs to occur here. I say that because Jupiter is conjunct Uranus' north node here in Gemini as well. Uranus and Taurus, these are big shifts and changes that have needed to occur. This could maybe be communication that occurs to make people feel outcast as well. And on a negative sense, that's something that could happen, and we could feel deceived in some way, or, it could be something that's working behind the scenes to put that there, and we may not fully understand what that is, because Mercury in Pisces, unless you're in tune with that other aspect of yourself, the mind isn't going to fully understand what this realm really is in a lot of ways. All right, we're also going to have that Mercury there in quintile to Uranus. So like I said, this could be behind the scenes type energy surrounding these aspects of change, awareness, expansion, surrounding whatever injustices where we've been outcast in that sense as well. This is all kind of playing into each other here on this Thursday. But again, that quintile is that feminine energy, behind the scenes type energy, whether it's been happening behind the scenes or is currently going to be happening behind the scenes on this day. It can also feel like fate, but again, you create your fate, you manifest that, you create that, right? You are a powerful creator being, you truly are. Stop throwing your power away or thinking that you aren't, because you truly, honestly are. All right, so again, there's that there's communication there, maybe that expansion of awareness surrounding aspects of change. And this may be behind the scenes change. Maybe something's finally coming through here. In that sense as well. So maybe pay attention to that. Something's maybe finally coming through here surrounding aspects of change and our awareness that has been hidden, maybe surrounding deceptions, what's been hidden, veiled, hiding behind the fog, etc. That really is beginning to come through, that expansion of awareness and communication beginning to come through, and that may make people feel outcasted, or it's surrounding where people have been outcasted, but it can't be swept under the rug any longer. Right? So that stuff is kind of, occurring. Okay, and there's a lot of deception and shit that has really occurred. A lot. We're also going to have the sun here in semi-sextile semi-sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. So again, we're relating to these aspects of transformation and change. And this, what I'm feeling is this mutable vibe, this illumination of this mutable, this change, this erosion of whatever through these aspects of shaking things up and change here. But also, this could be shaking things up through what has been hidden, what has been hiding behind the veil. The illumination of that is kind of the initial thing that I got with this semi-sextile, is that this energy is working together to kind of break down barriers, walls, etc., dissolve things, shake things up, transform them, and to bring things out into the light. The sun here with Pluto, transform and bring things out into the light that have indeed been hidden, veiled, etc., all kind of coming through in a lot of ways. So Thursday, February 20th looks to maybe be a very interesting kind of a day. All right. Okay, so let's move on to Friday the 21st. And again, nothing major happening on Friday. Let's move on to Saturday here, the 22nd. And again, nothing major. Let me just double check to see that I didn't actually miss anything again, like I have before. So nothing major. And again, nothing major besides just Moon coming into Capricorn that day. I will note that Mars is on its last leg of retrograde, so Mars will come direct late on Sunday, 8:02 p.m. But of course, I'll talk about that in the next video. Yeah, just taking a look here. Maybe I'm looking ahead too much. I don't know, but that's kind of really it for this week. One of my shorter videos, even though it was 46 minutes. Still shorter, usually this is an hour. But thank you to all who have made it this point in the video. I do really appreciate you. And if you have made it this far, leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. Have a great week.